Even to begin with my body, I have to say from the outset that body had more than one identity. While the subject-forming lineaments materialize her very concretely, they also index her multiple belongings and anchor her subjectivity in multiple places. The body is always multiple. My body is situated as a maternal body, and nursing is a vector of powerful and sometimes uncanny effect. The act of suckling a child, like a sexual act, may be tense, physically painful, charged with cultural feelings of inadequacy and guilt, or, like a sexual act, it can be a physically delicious, elementally soothing experience. Breastfeeding connects her directly to her infant, but also to other bodies across time, where the entwining of bodies might stir the remembered smell of her own mother's milk.
Indeed, the transit of waters between bodies is a matter of fact, but also as a matter of feeling, of memory, of gendered and sexual embodiment. The intercorporeal flows of breast milk are also a matter of privilege, and a matter of racialized reproductive politics. The industrialized dairy system replaces breastfeeding-esque gift economy and severs the nursing relationship between mammal mothers and offspring. In the process, big dairy also extracts wealth from animals and nature, and concentrates it in the hands of capitalist speciesist producer-owners, thus forging other kinds of subjectivities around labor and class. In all of these ways, nursing is a materialization of a particular but multiply-sided politics of location of both my body and various kinds of collective we-es. These dynamics are moreover shaped by the material composition of specific milky waters. Consider that in addition to fat, vitamins, lactose, minerals, antibodies, and other life-sustaining matters, breast milk also likely harbors DDT, PCBs, dioxin, trichloroethylene, cadmium, mercury, lead, benzene, arsenic, paint thinner, phthalates, dry cleaning fluid, toilet deodorizer, Teflon, rocket fuel, termite poison, fungicides, and flame retardant, and more. A troubling transit of perfluorinated alkylate substances used primarily, and ironically, as a waterproofing synthetic agent.
Well, the flows of biomagnified toxins in breast milk remind me that bodies are both nature and culture, both science and soul, both matter and meaning. Bodies are always nature-culture. I might try to parse out the real biological flows of milky intercorporeality. DDT, antibodies, flame retardant, calcium. From effective, even metaphoric ones. Bonding. Love. Revulsion. Fear. But such divisions falter. Psyche and soma, biology and affect, dwell in and as our bodies in amphimixis, where seemingly disparate bodily factions are nonetheless communicating with each other in empathic relations. There is no originary demarcation between these kinds of organic knowledges. These bodily interfaces, biology, mood, culture, context, are always co-worlding the phenomenon we come know as our bodies. Rather than two separate entities interacting, they interact. They become what they are only in relation. Co-worlding is always a collaborative process. The thing called the body is a mesh of other bodies. It also settles down enough to be accounted for, and to give an always provisional account of itself.
But the direction of these kinds of toxic flows is not only a human project.
You're right. Anthropogenically created pollutants such as those that my own breast milk may have harbored travel further still, but thanks to more than human travel agents, hitching a ride on atmospheric currents cycling from more temperate regions to the polar north. Many persistent organic pollutants settle in the Arctic. Here, thanks to the Arctic's cold climes, these toxins do not readily break down. Instead, they concentrate, and they enter the food chain. From plankton to fish to large marine mammals. While the blubber of whale bodies keeps them warm, this insulation also attracts and then magnifies fat-soluble toxins over the course of a long cetacean life.
In fact, levels build up over many seasons, making some animals far more polluted than their surrounding environment. Toxic breast milk is also a multi-species issue. Sea mammal fat is then consumed by humans in Arctic communities as a traditional dietary staple. As a result, the breast milk of Inuit women in the Canadian Arctic contains 2 to 10 times the amount of organic chlorine concentrations of samples from white women hundreds of kilometers to the south. PCB levels are also alarmingly high.
Milky Seas amplifies the politics of location. The falsely touted faceless, raceless category of all women does not hold for a materialized politics of location any more than it does for other kinds of identity politics. But instead of only particularizing the body through a closer materialist investigation, Milky Seas orientations also multiply and expand it. When a woman nurses her young, her transcorporeal gift is laced with a specific colonial politics of location, but one where the effects of colonial incursion do not require direct proximity to a colonizer. Colonialism is carried by currents in a weather and water world of planetary circulation, where we cannot calculate a politics of location according to stable cartographies or geometries. Time, moreover, is disturbed and redistributed too. Planetary breast milk highlights the uncanny overlap of slow violence and intergenerational violence with the singularity of an infant's hungry yell that is always insistently now. In these Milky Seas, time is also unevenly metered, now rushing forward, now seemingly stagnantly still. Contemporary toxic transits as structured by a latency, a temporal lag. In temporal terms, latency names the wait for the effects of the past to arrive in the present. It names how the past becomes reactivated. Through latency, the future is already altered. In the context of our water bodies, latency might also be an affirmative capacity to gestate life in the plural. That not yet of latency can also be the unfolding of possibility, of potential not yet manifest, that is not necessarily a disaster. Latency describes a more ominous temporality hovering on a threshold between maybe not and just wait.
Embodiment is therefore not just about more biologically robust detail. It is about paying attention to the complication of scale, where a familiar deictics appear and there. mine and ours, even local and global, or now and then, which might have once seemed relatively securable, are now merely toward.
So, time, place, and bodies are all caught in the warp and woof of planetary colloquialities that are natural, cultural, and diffracted, but still racialized and gendered, all the same. But you know, there is a sense that through scientific knowledge, things, like bodies, like water, might finally become knowable when described through vectors of performativity, or social construction, or effect, or even a more conservative politics of location. Knowing our bodies still seemed like a somewhat comfortingly, even speculative endeavor. Once biological materiality enters the flow, however, we might think that the depths of our corporeality can be finally fully plumbed, that we might finally become transparently knowable to ourselves and others. Yet transcorporeal threats are often invisible, and the risk is incalculable. How do we calculate the risks of toxic breast milk when these flows cannot be dissociated from cultural questions and other kinds of flows? In a water world of queer time and space, we can never track the trickle definitively back to its source. Milky fluids cannot be disentangled from Arctic currents or gastric juices, from amniotic seas or cisterns full of our liquid waste. The complexities of transcorporeal embodiment are difficult, if not impossible. Knowing a body is never an exercise in certainty. Certain boundaries, certain relations, certain transits, certain outcomes. Politics of location must give up the will to mastery, even of our own subject selves.
The politics of location of the body are all differently assembled. They do not all merge in an amorphous flow. I can describe this as the membrane logic of viscous porosity, where viscosity draws attention to sites of resistance and opposition rather than only a notion of porous, open possibilities that might suggest, again, that undifferentiated we. The difference is key, but at the same time, differentiation is never a decisive severing. I began with the objective of describing the geography closest, and we have paddled a great distance while never really leaving this body that is mine. But is it really mine? These bodies are all caught up in one another's currents as they are with the whale-less body, the body of the rain cloud, and the body of the increasingly toxic sea. As bodies of water, we are always, at some level, implicated. Bodily waters, breast milk or amniotic waters are material metonyms of a planetary watery mesh that interpermeates and connects bodies and bathes new kinds of plural life into being. Human reprosexuality is not at the center of a gestational logic. It rather repeats an ontologic that it learns from water. As watery meshes for other bodies, we are always gathering the debts of the myriad watery bodies that are the condition of our possibility. Eventually, we all give ourselves up to another wet body. We all become with, or simply just become other milky seas. Milky seas, milky seas, milky seas.